What's going on, everybody? Welcome in to the Blazers Uprise post-game show. The Blazers finally win a game, and it wasn't over a team that was putting out an impressive lineup, but it's a win nonetheless. They break their losing streak. Anthony Simons did a lot of painting tonight. He painted 9 straight threes to start this game. Very impressive performance from Anthony Simons. We'll talk about that, and we will talk about the game. So what's going on? I hope your guys' days are going well. I hope you're having a good one. Nice to be able to talk about a Blazers win, I guess. Doesn't really change anything in the long run. So this post-game stream, I don't really know where we're going to go with this, Eric. I mean, the Blazers should have taken care of business in this game, and they did. I don't know. They've been struggling the past 13 games, but in there you did have a blowout win over OKC and a blowout win over Detroit. You know, the bottom feeders of the league, they've looked good against. Problem is, against solid to good teams, they've lost pretty much every game. So this is another one of those bottom feeders, right? You would look at Indiana's record, and they're not a bottom feeder, but they go into this game missing Miles Turner, missing Domantas Sabonis. Who else were they missing? They were missing TJ Warren.
And then Goga, their backup center.
They're missing Goga, yeah. So they were missing both their starting bigs and then their backup big. Goga's been quietly solid this year. So they very depleted team, was a sub 500 team coming into this game regardless, and then they were missing guys on top of that. So this isn't necessarily an impressive win. There were impressive performances, specifically Simons, and it was nice to see Dame hit some shots and get going a little bit. That was good to see. He kind of needed a game like this to hopefully catapult himself into the final 10 to 11 games of the regular season. But this is let's just be honest, Eric. This is not a team that put out an impressive lineup tonight. So, how are your feelings on this game? Are you kind of indifferent like I am? Like, yeah, it was enjoyable and it was nice, but it doesn't really mean much in terms of this team making progress towards the playoffs.
Yeah, that's exactly how I feel. Just for the people saying wrong thumbnail, so when Tori starts the stream, it takes a minute for the thumbnail to update. That's all it was. So if you would have hit refresh during that time, you would have seen the clean thumbnail for tonight's game.
Yep.
But so in a game like this, you're looking for one to get the win. I didn't particularly like the first quarter. Offensively, I guess, was okay, but defensively, I have an issue with giving up 35 points in the first quarter to that lineup. So wasn't encouraged there, but then, you look to see if they go from there, like if it's going to be a close game the rest of the way, or if they put their foot down and stomp this bad team like they should. And I was happy that they did that. Like you said, hard to tell because of the competition level, whether it was necessarily anything they did well. But I also was looking for, Dame to hit some shots and maybe get out of his slump. I want to say he shot over 50% from 3 in this game, which is nice to see.
Yeah, he was 6 for 14 from the field, 4 for 8 from 3.
Yeah, so that's good. Hopefully, seeing the ball go in a few times will get him going again, because he's definitely a key if we're ever going to do anything this season is we need Dame to be playing well. And then, it's just nice to see a guy like Ant step up and have a good game and just shoot the ball incredibly well like he has been doing for several weeks now.
Yep. Norman Powell doesn't score in this game, plays 20 minutes, doesn't record a single point, but everyone else in the starting lineup was solid. Rocco has been struggling, but today he shot 6 for 12 from the field, 5 for 3 from the three-point line, had 15 points, 11 boards to go along with 2 blocks. So it was good to see Rocco have a solid game. Nurkic, 4 for 10 from the field, didn't shoot a 3 for 5 from the line. He had 11 points, 10 rebounds, 4 assists. So kind of a mediocre
Only 19
game.
minutes, right?
20 minutes for Nurkic, yeah. Mediocre game for him, but honestly, he's, you're seeing encouraging signs as we finish this season, especially the games he had going into this one. CJ 20 points, 4 assists, 9 for 13 from the field, 2 for 4 from the three-point line in 25 minutes. He had a great offensive game tonight. So when you got somebody like a Simon stepping up off the bench, having that sort of performance, and then CJ shooting as well as he did, and then a solid performance from Dame and Rocco against a bottom feeder lineup, which is what this was, the Blazers should win that no matter what. I mean, they scored 133 points, and that was with them only scoring 20 points in the fourth quarter. They had 113 points going into the fourth quarter, Eric. I mean, when they're hot from three, that's what's going to happen. You know, this team is super reliant on the three-point ball, so when you got a guy like Simons hitting his first 9, and you got a guy like, Melo's 5 for 6 as well, and CJ and Dame both shoots 50% from 3, and Rocco shoots above 50%. When that happens, they're going to beat bottom feeder teams. Thing is, against the best teams, they'll do a better job of contesting three-point shots and taking those away, and then can Portland adjust? You know, that's the difference between playing a team like this and playing the types of teams they'll have to beat down the stretch in order to make the playoffs.
Yeah, they got a lot of three-point shots that in recent games against good teams they did not get or were more contested than they were tonight. And it's nice, when you hit those, but they're not going to leave Simons like wide open after he's hit 8 threes in a row or anything. Like good teams won't do that. So it becomes like back to, did you do like run a play for him, or did you like get him the ball in a position to score easier or feed off of that hotness that he's feeling it, he's in the zone, like get him some good shots. So yeah, I'm interested to see next game against the Grizzlies, since we just lost to them twice in a row, if they do anything different, because that was one of my biggest problems with Sunday's game and why I'm so frustrated with this team. It felt like we just lost the same way we lost on Friday and didn't really do anything about it. So we've heard this all, like every time we've had a good game moving the ball or shooting threes, like, oh, we figured some things out, like we move the ball well, and all this kind of stuff, and then you go to the next good team you play and they revert back to their old stuff. So it's just about building upon the confidence they got in this game, hopefully.
Yeah, I'm not putting any stock in this game long term. I'm not putting any stock in this game long term. If you're into stocks and that type of stuff, you'll have blips, downward, upward blips and whatnot. Doesn't mean the stock is going up. It's a far more complicated picture than that. With this Blazer team, you're playing a bad team. Can't put any stock into that because they've beaten bad teams this year. They blew out the Oklahoma City Thunder in a stretch where they struggled against good teams. They blew out the Detroit Pistons. So as far as this game goes, enjoyed it. Nice to talk about a win. Nice to be a bit positive on a post-game show, but I don't want anybody to get confused. I'm not putting stock in this.
Yeah, I saw a couple of our favorite tweeters out there saying, like, oh, I don't see anyone complaining about the coaching tonight. And it's like, come on. Like, that's so
But the
ridiculous.
thing is, if we were, then they would be giving us a bunch of crap. You know what I mean? So it's like,
we're up 40.
We're blowing out a team that starts O'Shea Brissett, Jakar Sampson, and Edmund Sumner. What is that? Like, what are we supposed to say? And how does that validate the coaching of this team in any way? You know what I mean? It's just stupid non-arguments like that. It's just people out there trying to rile people up. So, shout out Near012, $5 dono says, Stotts won't run a play, but everyone played with a little more urgency, especially Dame on defense. Yeah, I mean, Dame kind of set the tone there in, the second quarter, and Anthony even referenced that, and I saw a lot of people talking about how Dame kind of set the tone defensively, and that's what Dame needs to do more of, because he's the leader. He has to do so much offensively that if he starts busting his ass on defense, a lot of guys I feel like will follow suit, or it will be far more unacceptable for other guys to not do so, considering how much responsibility Dame has on the offensive end. So Dame is the leader who has to expend the most energy on offense. If he starts playing hard defensively, I feel like that's a spark for the team. The problem is we haven't really seen that from Dame this year. He's regressed defensively this year. His energy on the defensive end has regressed, and it's not what's responsible for our defense being the third worst defense in NBA history, but he could help spark us like he did tonight if he would just step up and try and play with a little bit more energy on that end.
And one thing, he would get a stop, and that they would push the ball up and then get an easy bucket off of it, and it was flowing. So you're getting stops on one end and getting easy buckets on the other end, and that's what we've been like saying we need to do against good teams: push the tempo a little bit, create some easy shots instead of constantly having to make our half-court ISO pick and roll situations work every time down the court. So I thought that was, not only did we get stops, but then we threw a quick outlet pass and the players got down the court quickly and got easy buckets. And that's the way you need to play when the defenses are tougher, not revert back to the half-court playoff type offenses that we're used to.
Yep. A couple comments in chat that I want to read off. Okay, Californian Russian says Dame is aging. Well, everybody is aging. Everybody that's alive is aging. Just, I mean, unless you somehow unlock the secret to staying young. If so, I want it. And then Blogboy says Dame didn't have a super crazy game tonight, but if he played just to this level during the hot streak, we win most of those games we lost. The thing is, when Dame had a bad game, like kind of the past couple of games, Nurkic was playing extremely well, and CJ was playing solid to extremely well. People were underrating how solid CJ was the past few games. So, yeah, you could say, oh, if Dame just plays a little better, yeah, well, if Nurkic doesn't drop 26 and 17 then, you know what I mean? If Nurkic plays a little bit worse. That's the thing. For every player you can look at and say, oh, if he just played a little bit better, you can look at another guy who played well and say, oh, if he just played a little bit worse. It goes vice versa. So that's why I don't like to sit here and say nothing's wrong with the team because Dame was struggling and we were losing games that we were close. The thing is, we were losing games in which CJ's solid and Nurkic plays insane and drops 26, 17 rebounds and 5 assists, and we're losing the games due to all the problems that we've seen all year. So that's why I'm not sitting here, it's not a situation where it's like, oh man, if Dame just played, scored 30 points and shot more efficiently, we would have won. No, there's still a lot of issues this team has to fix regardless, and there are people that did step up for Dame when he was struggling, and we still weren't getting wins.
And this has been our problem all along. We're too reliant on him to have to score against tough defensive pressure. So yeah, of course, if he's being guarded the way he was guarded against those good teams and he still goes off for 40 points on high efficiency, yeah, of course we'll probably win those games. But the problem is you can't do that consistently, and that's why it doesn't work for Dame in the playoffs.
Yep. He goes on to say, Tori, you can't have it both ways. You can't say Dame has to do so much offensively and then bring up how well other guys not Dame did. That makes absolutely no sense to me. But yeah, I mean, it's let's not be fooled, it's we require Dame to basically be heroic to win a lot of games against good teams, and he can do it. And then when he doesn't do it, and then when he struggles, it's oh my goodness, well, Dame's struggling, that's why we lost. No, I think be a little bit easier on him if we got him better quality shots where, he could have a big game without having to hit some heroic and super difficult shots. That's really what that boils down to as far as this stretch run in which we're struggling. I mean, we'll see. It's hopefully Dame does play better, but I could see Dame playing better and then Simons doesn't continue his hot shooting and then CJ struggles a little bit, just the ebbs and flows of a season, and then we still lose. Whereas we could survive if that happens if we had a better structure, if we had, just a better coach team.
Yeah, I agree. So we got Ian Charles Rose watching right now. So that's weird.
Wow, gotta give him a shout out because
we got both Ians in here.
Yeah, shout out to both Ians. So Simons, I want to talk a little bit more about him. 9 for 10 from the 3-point line, 9 for 13 from the field. Only plays 24 minutes. Just phenomenal shooting stretch today. He's been shooting the ball very well since he's gotten put back in the rotation. I think he's kind of earned those minutes. I want to see Little play due to all the, I think Little's a good defender. He brings energy and can be a positive offensively and kind of generally makes the right decisions offensively. So I like Little's game. And, before Anthony a shot like this, I would have put Little over Anthony. But Anthony's making it hard to do that with how well he's been shooting the ball lately.
Yep. You can make the argument that right now Ant is better for this team than Trent would be.
I mean, with the way Trent was defending for us, he was not defending well. Okay, Anthony's not a good defender either, but Trent for us was simply a 3-point shooter that got a ton of minutes. And the thing is he has the potential to be a good defender. We've seen that, but he really wasn't for us. So people were much higher on Trent than Simons, but I still think Simons has I think Simons has a little higher ceiling. We lagging a little bit.
I don't see any light on my end.
Me. Weird.
Just you, but not the stream. That's weird.
Yeah, that's kind of backwards. But as far as Simons goes, though, I mean, Simons is. I mean, you could make the case, at least this season, he's been a better 3-point shooter than Gary Trent Jr. He's been a better 3-point shooter than him, and he is able to do more. Go ahead.
I would say going into this game, he was 42.4%. So yeah, I mean, Blockway's right. We basically just use him as a 3-point shooter most of the time. But I mean, if he's hitting at a plus 40% rate, and that's going to go way up after tonight. Well, not way up since it's 60 games in, but you get my point. If we're using him as a 3-point shooter, I mean, I'd like to get him cleaner looks sometimes, but I mean, he's shooting a really high percentage. So what's wrong with that, in my opinion? I would like to get him some easier shots too. I don't think all of his shots should be threes, but yeah, I've always been high on the upside of Simons. I'm one of the few people who haven't ever bailed on him or Collins for that matter.
Yeah, I mean, we only use Trent as just a 3-point shooter. You know, we didn't really run plays for him. We didn't really have designed cuts for him. We didn't curl him off into mid-range jumpers as part of a set action. We kind of just used him as a 3-point shooter. So, I mean, Trent was the same way. The thought was Trent was a better defender than he was, though. You know, because people got a little bit of a taste of Trent being a really good defender because he was in the bubble. And then they gave him a little bit more leeway on that end this season than I think he should have been given. Because I talked to a number of people that still just thought back to the bubble and thought Trent was a good defender for us this year. But when I watched him, dude was not a good defender for us. So, honestly, it's Simons can replace some of his production, especially as a 3-point shooter. It's not like Gary Trent Jr. was efficient inside the arc. Neither is Simons. Trent wasn't a good defender this year. Neither is Simons. You know what I mean?
Oh, I will say Simons has improved. I mean, it's still not great, but you can definitely tell that he's put in some work to be a better defender, and he's definitely better than he was last season on that end. It's still not good or good enough or where it needs to be, but I mean, we're saying that about everyone in this system, so
yeah.
Like, I don't know. I'd like to see. That's another reason why I'd like to see a lot of these guys instead of like giving him up for an Aaron Gordon or something. You know, I'd rather see some of these guys under a new coach and see how they're utilized versus just completely writing them off on that end, especially.
I agree, and you know, at this point, Trent is the better player. I just think
for sure.
People thought the gap between the two was bigger than it was. Okay, and with the way Simons is shooting lately, he's outplaying Trent recently. I mean, Trent hasn't been playing too well in Toronto. Simons is playing better than him right now. So I think the gap there is closer than most people thought. Also, long-term ceiling, I think Anthony has a higher long-term ceiling. I thought the best case scenario for Trent was a borderline all-star caliber player. I still think ceiling... And let me define ceiling before people say I'm crazy. Ceiling is like the best possible outcome I could see for a player. For Simons, I could see him being an all-star player, best case scenario, because he has the athleticism. He's still 21 years old and is already shooting the ball like this, and it's not just spot-up shots. He's shooting it off the dribble. I mean, he has to develop a dribble drive game in order to have a chance at even approaching his ceiling, and it's not likely at all that he becomes an all-star but that's kind of where the upside comes in with him, the long-term upside that I think Olshey sees. So, it's not, I'm not saying he's going to become an all-star. I'm not saying it's likely he becomes an all-star, but that's where I think his ceiling lies. I think it's a little higher than Trent's.
Yeah, I mean, Trent came in as a more ready player, was already supposed to be a good shooter and stuff, and worked his way onto the court because of his defense last year and his hot stretch of shooting. But yeah, I mean, I've talked about this earlier in the season when Ant was kind of struggling, or last year when he was struggling. When you make someone the backup point guard or expect him to run the offense sometimes, Trent didn't have those responsibilities outside of a game where we're missing like Dame and all our guards were out, one game, and Trent had to bring the ball up a few times that game. But for the most part, we're not saying like, okay, on top of just being a shooter and being put in all these situations, you also have to run the offense when you're in there and do all these other things. And I think the learning curve is a lot stronger or higher for players who have to take on more responsibility than a guy like Trent, who is more just put in like, okay, you're going to be a 3-and-D guy. You go shoot threes and play defense. And that's all he had to worry about or work on in terms of getting better to fit on our team. Now, if he wants to reach that ceiling you're talking about, he, of course, needs to improve his off-the-dribble game and his 2-point game and his passing and all that kind of stuff. But I feel like...
he has time to do that. He's 21. Yeah. He's still only 21.
Well, I was talking about Trent, if Trent reaches his ceilings. But Trent's like only a few months older, so it's not like Trent's that much older. But there's a reason why Simons was taken like in the first round, and Trent was taken 7 picks into the second round too. Like people take players off of potential a lot of times, and I still have pretty high hopes for Ant, and I hope if he does realize that potential, it's with Portland and not another team.
Yep, agreed. So what else you want to talk about from this game? I'll let you bring up the next topic of conversation.
Yeah, I liked Dame's stretch of defense. For those that don't know, Tori let me know right before we went on the air that we signed Rondae Hollis Jefferson for the remainder of the season.
He walks off the court to a contract, basically. Eric, literally got tweeted out right when the final buzzer is going off. So Rondae Hollis Jefferson, maybe it happened before the game, but basically Portland is signing him for the rest of the season. That's not even really newsworthy because I totally expected that to happen.
Yeah,
that's no surprise.
I mean, our bigs dominated the boards tonight. That was to be expected when their only big is Jakar Sampson, and
yeah,
like you said, there's not a lot of I was trying to watch it as in a positive light, but the biggest positive for me is just that they got up double digits, and it didn't seem like there was a let up this time. They put their foot down. It took a while to get there, but once they got there, that third quarter was really good. Like you said, you can't really take too much of it because the defense wasn't good by the Pacers, but at least they played well against an NBA team, and we can hopefully get some confidence back, because I felt like the team, if this would have been a close game or if they somehow lost this game, it could have been the end of the season tonight if they I don't know if they recovered from that if they didn't play well tonight. So thankfully, if you're still holding out hope of them finishing out the season, I think tonight was a good sign for that still being a possibility. Maybe Golden State isn't playing very well so far, but no, I'm just saying, like, as opposed to if we lost, I think the season would definitely be over.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I get that. If we lose, it's probably the worst loss of the season. I don't know. I don't feel comfortable being any more hopeful because of the win, if that makes sense.
Let me refresh. I don't know if I said that right. Okay, I'm not saying you should be hopeful because we won. I'm saying if you're one of those people who are still holding out hope, since we won this game, it doesn't mean you can't still hold out hope. I'm not saying that this game gives you hope. I'm saying that it didn't do anything to deter those people from losing hope like a loss would have.
So basically, essentially, thank goodness it didn't get as bad as it could have gotten if we lost.
Yes, exactly.
That makes sense, and I agree with that. It's yeah, I mean, it might be, other than Cleveland, this could be our easiest game left this season. So enjoy it, because the Blazers have struggled against good teams. They got a lot of good teams coming up. So this could be one of the last wins of the season that we're talking about, which is kind of crazy to say. I mean, but it's maybe it could be a stepping stone. I don't know. It's kind of hard to react to these types of games because I'm not optimistic, and I'm not positive. I'm enjoying it. I'll enjoy the win. I enjoy Simon's going well. I enjoyed watching this game, but it's just not super meaningful. It's not meaningful at all. Let's just be honest. Shout out to Max Buckley, $5 dono, says, if I had to choose between firing Stoss or firing Jordan Kent, I'm firing Kent 10 times out of 10. Dude is awful. No, bro. Kent only affects.
Yeah, you can press mute. You can't mute Stotts on.
Yeah. I mean, you can mute your TV. You can't mute Stotts, exactly. But yeah, I said before this season that it was just I don't know. It came across a little bit as a cheap hiring. You're hiring a guy with no experience in that role to be the play-by-play guy of an NBA team. I don't think there's any other play-by-play guy that has as little experience as a play-by-play guy as Jordan Kent does. And that's not even like an insult towards Jordan Kent. It's not his fault he doesn't have experience. He's being thrust into a role that he's not really qualified for. That's on the Blazers, and he's trying to do his best. I'll give him that. It's not like a critique of anything Jordan Kent is trying to do. He's trying to do his best. It's just he's not ready because he has no experience. You put me as the play-by-play guy, I am botching it even worse because I have no experience. You put anybody with no experience in that role, they're botching it, and I'm not necessarily saying that Kent has botched it. It's just you're not going to get good results if you don't have experience. You're being thrust into that role. Like Travis Demers got put in as a play-by-play radio guy for the Blazers. He had experience doing minor league baseball, doing high school sports, doing stuff like that. Filled in a few times for Brian Wheeler before they decided to make Travis Demers the guy. So Travis Demers had some experience ramping up into getting that job. But yeah, Jordan Kent to me, Eric, sounds either bored or fake excited.
Yeah.
When he gets excited, it sounds kind of fake. And I know it's hard because of the way this team is playing, and then also no fans in the stands, and they're not watching the game in person at road games. So, that probably is making it even tougher. So I do have to give him that caveat. But that's just how I feel. It's like he's either bored or sounds like he's trying to force excitement.
Yeah, I mean, once again, nice guy. This is not personal at all. So please, no one take it personally, especially if Jordan happens to see this. It's not personal. It's just, I feel like he's basketball isn't super exciting for him, and he's trying to, like you said, manufacture that excitement. Mm-hmm. But I feel like if he was doing play-by-play of a football game or something, it would be much smoother for him and more natural. I know he played both sports at Oregon, but I just feel like football is his expertise, and it comes across as him kind of just doing it as a job versus really being excited like a lot of people would be to get that position. But Blockboy says pain it makes him laugh. That's good that you laugh. But The thing is, so Blockboy also mentioned Snoop Dogg being the only good person, like right off the bat. It's completely different for the color guy or the analyst, because they just have to like, when it gets kicked to them or when they're asked a question or something, they just say like analyze the game or whatever.
Yeah,
So
they fill in the blanks.
it's a lot easier to do that versus the play-by-play guy who has to set the tone and bring up those questions and make the dialogue flow between the two and all that kind of stuff. And I don't know. It seems like they like each other, and like I said, they're both good guys. It's just yeah, it's kind of cringe sometimes the the way they talk and react during the games to some of the plays.
Yeah, people didn't appreciate Calabro enough. Let me just say that right now. People did not appreciate Calabro enough. He, great voice, really good commentator. It was almost like people didn't want to give him a chance because he used to be the Sonics play-by-play guy and a Seattle guy and whatnot.
He had some annoying
yeah, but
sayings though too.
Yeah, but it was like mixed in with like good commentary. You know what I mean? So you could like brush those to the side. And when he sounded excited, he'd say some cringe stuff, but like he sounded like truly invested and excited. I just think, I don't know, Jordan Kent seems like he has a bit of a like a chill, laid back voice to me. So maybe that's why when he gets excited, it sounds like he's forcing it. I don't know. That just could be just a random shot in the dark. I don't know if you guys agree with that or not, but I mean, maybe he gets better. It'll be interesting to see if he's back as the play-by-play guy. It could have just been a fill-in role this season. Who knows?
But it was funny when they were they couldn't stop laughing at their own ant jokes. You could hear them like trying to cover their laughs.
I wasn't even listening to the commentary, so I don't even know what you're talking about. But I was zoning out the commentary. A lot of times that's what I do. And whenever we're on national TV, I just get the national TV broadcast. But I know a lot of people were kind of talking about it today. So appreciate the donation from Max. What else you want? We're only 34 minutes in, Eric. What else from this game?
Do you take anything from Powell? Powell's rough night?
No
points.
Didn't really get any quality looks, I felt like. Mm-hmm. And so I mean he only shot 6 times? Let me pull up the box score here. He was 0 for something.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was 0 for 6, 0 for 1 from 3. Drove a few times, but didn't really get clean look. It's not like he's botching open lanes or anything, He didn't really get a clean look. Only played 20 minutes. I don't know. His body language seemed kind of today. I don't know if you noticed that, but he seemed kind of just like out of it.
I just hope... See, we haven't seen enough of him to formulate an opinion on this, but I hope he's one of those guys that cares more about the fact that they got a win tonight versus his own stats. I think that's our best hope for retaining him, is if he wants to be part of the solution. And even though he was over, he was happy that other teammates played well instead of being a me guy, which I don't get that impression from him. But I think obviously it's not ideal for him to score 0 points. But how many minutes did he play? Do you have
20,
it in front of you?
20.
Yeah, so wasn't like he was. This is a guy who we've been playing like 39 minutes a game lately and stuff. So I don't know if that's anything really to take from it, other than, I mean, obviously he didn't have a good game, but hopefully it's just a 1 game blip for him. He'll be all right.
Yeah. I mean, so Larry TB Pup said that somebody called into Chad Doing's post-game show and mentioned that there were rumors from agents of several players specifically Derrick Jones Jr., Robert Covington, and Norman Powell, and said that they're not happy with how their players are being used by Stotts, and that is too much hero ball by Melo, CJ, and Dame. They're fine with Dame, who has delivered in the clutch multiple times, but with the other two added in, they just end up standing around and are not happy about this. And that's just some guy calling into Chad Doing's post-game show, so take it with a grain of salt, but that wouldn't surprise me at all if that's the case. And that could be why his body language, he just seemed out of it today. There aren't plays that are ran for Derrick Jones Jr., Robert Covington, Norman Powell. A lot of times they sit around and watch as Melo, CJ, and Dame make things happen. And I'm not even really blaming CJ for that or Melo for that. It's more just the structure of the offense. It's basically isolation players, go make something happen. Go play some hero ball. And that's why I have a problem with the structure of our offense. So I've wondered if that's kind of the case. I thought it was interesting that Chris McGowan was at the game the other day. I think that's the first, maybe one of, if not the first game he's been at all season long. Olshey wasn't there, and normally Olshey is there when he's there, so I thought that was a little interesting. It wouldn't surprise me if it's just kind of a situation where Powell is not comfortable in an offense where he's just standing around, isn't able to get a rhythm, and is a little bit unhappy with how the offense is structured. If that's the case, worried about him leaving this offseason, but that could potentially explain maybe a night like tonight where he doesn't score in 20 minutes, 0 for 6 from the field.
Yep. So, we all know unless some miracle run happens that Stotts is gone in all likelihood, right? Mm-hmm. So I guess that's the only saving grace, if it's Olshey or if Olshey's let go to whoever the new GM is, to come in and explain to these guys that, look, we understand your frustrations. We feel the same way. That's why we're making a coaching change. And then sell them on the fact that whatever new coach we bring in will also address their concerns. And, hopefully you hire someone that those guys like and will respond to and feel like they're a bigger part of what's going on. I don't know if that's true or not. It's weird because a guy like Derrick Jones, it's almost like, he could hate it here and want out and all that kind of stuff, but he's probably not going to get $10 million based on how Stotts has used him this year. Next year, so he might still opt in just because of that money, unless his agent gives him some bad advice. So it's, I don't know. And so we can still, Roka's obviously under contract, so unless he just completely leaves the team or something, he's going to be back next year. And then we have the Powell situation, which obviously would benefit us greatly to re-sign him, whether that's to trade him down the road or to trade CJ or to just have 3 really good guards. It's a situation where I hope we can convince them that our front office has the same concerns, and that's why things will be different next year, and not just hear them talk about it, actually have a plan to make it different this time.
Yep. And for anybody saying Derrick Jones Jr. isn't a good enough player to complain, that's just, he's a good defender who's a good finisher inside and a lob target. But because he's not a great three-point shooter, people think that he deserves to be benched. And then they focus on him getting benched in the playoffs last season when, what was he dealing with, Eric?
He fell in the first round and hurt his neck and got a concussion, and then was dealing with neck issues the rest of the playoffs.
Yeah.
He was in and out of the lineup and stuff, yeah.
But he was in the lineup before that, and that was for a team that made the finals, okay? So people that hold that against him, I think that's absolutely ridiculous. If you have a better structured offense that has players cut more, frees up, cuts to the basket more, he's going to be able to capitalize on that. Okay? If you have a couple lob plays a game for him, he's probably going to be able to capitalize on that. He's one of the most athletic guys in the league and one of the best lob targets in the league. Okay, that's what we're talking about by we need a better structured offense. And I understand, like, he is justified by being frustrated that he just gets stuck in the corner and just watches, because A, that's not his strength. B, no player would enjoy that. I mean, I don't understand what people, like, how people think that he shouldn't be upset, or that he's too bad to complain, or that he shouldn't be used any other way, or stuff like that. You know, it's frustrating when Rocco hits, like, his first 2 threes, and then he's been guarded at the 3-point line, and he doesn't get another shot for the rest of the half. Yes, he should be frustrated, you know? It's stuff like that. I don't understand why people think that these players aren't justified for being upset, for being stuck in the corner and standing around watching things happen.
Yep. And my man, Luxury Tax JJ LaFont, has been getting me some info from Synergy. He has access to it. Mm-hmm. And so I'm still working on a article to go up on BlazersUprise.com explaining in depth how we're using Derek Jones compared to his effectiveness last year, and why Stotts is doing a big disservice to him, and why someone like that should be mad about the way he's being used in Portland.
I'm really looking forward to it. We will tweet out that article once it's published on the Blazers Uprise Twitter page. That is at Blazers Uprise YT. If you haven't followed me or Eric personally yet, at Torrey Jones YT for me, at Hoopsjock for Eric. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that, and that's what's cool with the website. Especially next year, we'll get things more regular next year. We're just kind of slowly, very slowly, starting this off. But that's what'll be nice, is to be able to have something to reference on Twitter and whatnot in conversations with people. It'll be nice. Because you'll, like, I'm curious to see what you have there. You know, I'm very, like, curious and really looking forward to reading this. And you could probably put together a better case through writing than just talking about it on here.
Right.
And you're able
or
to back
Twitter.
it up with synergy and stats and whatnot. Yeah, exactly. So that's going forward next year. The website, will definitely use that, and we'll have writers and whatnot. It's just wanted to get launched before the start of the season. It got delayed, so we didn't really have the time to put forth to that. But this offseason, we'll be making sure that gets that ball gets rolling. So looking forward to that, Eric.
Yep, and shout out to Phil Sanders, who just become an all-star member. Thank you, Phil. What's up, man? How you doing?
Yep, but thank you, Phil. And then shout out near 012 $5 dono says, if Derek Jones Jr. played with Nurk and we played at a faster pace, he could average 10 plus points per game easily. I agree. I mean, you just look at, like, Jake Layman as a cutter and a lob target with Nurkic just passing, and how much Jake Layman thrived off that. Why have we got, like, we didn't have good ball movement or cutting then, but we've gotten even further away from that. Derek Jones Jr. should be in that role, being used like that, at least, you know. And I think there would be even more stuff that we could do with him on the offensive end. But we don't, and he should definitely be frustrated for that.
Yep, and people are blaming the players. Allison showed me this interview with Stotts from, I think it was about 3 or 4 years ago. And it was talking about how Stotts, he basically said, like, everywhere he's been that's had a successful offense featured ball movement and player movement and all this kind of stuff, right? Mm-hmm. And then he said his offense, like, moving forward was going to let the players decide what they want to do and all that kind of stuff. But I just think that's just such, like, you're just passing the blame once again to your players to make the right decisions and the right reads, when you're telling everyone your priority is to shoot threes and then blaming them for not cutting. It's just it's mixed signals. So, like, players don't know whether they're supposed to camp out at the 3-point line and stay away from Dame when he drives down the middle, or Nurk when he's rolling off a pick and roll or whatever, or if they're supposed to cut, or, like, it just and then the the synchronization of everything doesn't make sense. When you have plays that are designed to have players cut, then the guards or the people with the ball know when the cut's supposed to happen and can look for it and would see it easier and all that kind of stuff versus just like, oh, I don't know, I tell them to cut whenever they feel like it and they just don't. They just stand there. Like, it's such a lazy approach to the offense, and it obviously hasn't worked now for a couple of years, even though our coach seems to think it's working. But yeah, it's just it just drives me crazy that that seems to be his approach. It's just like, oh, just roll the ball out and let the players do what they want because it works, right? It works. We have the 6th-rated defense or whatever. I know it's going down. It'll probably go back up after tonight, but like, it just seems to be like the offense is never the problem, and they don't do anything to correct it. But then you hear them say several times this season, oh, well, look, we moved the ball and we did some things offensively, structurally that were different that game, and it worked really well. So we'll build on that. And then the next game, they just come right back out to rolling the ball out and just letting them do whatever they want.
Yep. I don't blame those players for being frustrated in it. They have the right to be. They are a part of this team. They should be a bigger part of the offense, And I'm not necessarily saying Derrick Jones Jr. should shoot more, but he shouldn't be standing in the corner. I know that much. That's pretty obvious. And when we signed him, we were frustrated because we figured he was just going to get stuck in the corner and that wasn't his game. But then, basically it turned out that Olshey was putting the onus on Stotts to be more creative with player movement to better utilize a guy like that. And Stotts has failed that test. And that's why I think he's gone. That's why I think you're hearing Jason Quick say there's a 95 to 98% chance that Stotts is gone after the season. So there's obviously, I think Olshey wanted to do a lot of things that we wanted the team to do, and Stotts hasn't really come forth with them. So I think there is finally a big enough disconnect there between Olshey and Stotts that Olshey will fire him. So some people think that Stotts still being here should mean Olshey should get fired as well. I mean, I see where they're coming from. After that Pelican sweep, it should have been a wrap. Stotts should have been gone, and we kind of rode that boat too long. So yeah, I mean, I don't even know where I'm going with this. I'm just the Blazers get a win tonight, and we're talking about the problems this team is facing because I mean, there's really not much to read into this game.
Yeah, and Salvik mentions the low-key you guys' anger about the signing was right of Derrick Jones. And that was all because we knew this is how he was going to be used. And we knew that all of his skill set, I forget if it was last game or the game before, Torrey mentioned how the second unit should have more of an identity or should play at a faster pace, maybe not with Cantor and Melo, but like in certain years you have an Anthony Simons, you have a Derrick Jones, you have I don't know, you could play Giles with that lineup or whatever, and you could push the pace a little bit, and I think Melo would be fine either way. He seems to like shooting threes on fast breaks and stuff like that, so I don't think he would be put out in that lineup or whatever. But or you see when we had an Evan Turner who thrived as the second unit ball handler, mostly because he pushed the pace a lot for Boston, and then he comes here and we slow it down and he's stuck in the half court, and it's just like Derrick Jones and Anthony Simons. Like we're not I don't think we're taking advantage of some of these guys' athleticism, and I felt like Neil made a point to get a little bit more athleticism on the team this year, and it hasn't seemed to translate to anything different on the court, and that was why we were so frustrated when we signed Derrick Jones, because even though it was probably a better decision to sign him over, say, a Paul Millsap or something like that, I still think Millsap, even struggling and aging like he has been at times this year, would have fit better in this particular offense if Stotts was going to run the same crap he normally runs. So yeah, so that's where our frustration lied. But yeah, it's and then I mean, Stotts has said it himself. He's had no impact on the defense or whatever. So it's just frustrating that Stotts doesn't even know how to use him on an end of the floor where he's supposed to be good.
Yep. So What else do you want to talk about from the? There's really nothing else to talk about from this game, Eric.
One other good thing is the lack of running the starters into the ground tonight means with the back-to-back tonight, they should be fresher. So it was nice to not see them all play like 30-plus minutes tonight, and we're wondering why we played so many minutes for everyone. But, so I think that's one good thing. I just want to see them come out tomorrow night kind of with that intensity they had in the third quarter tonight, and I don't know, do some things differently than we saw in the 2 losses over the weekend to the Grizzlies.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. Wasn't this team the team that was saying, yeah, it's really hard to beat the same team twice in a row? Well, they better not be the team that loses to the Memphis Grizzlies 3 times in a row. That would be bad. Let's go around the NBA if you're ready for that.
Yep.
Alrighty. Not many scores today. There's 2 games still going on. That's Timberwolves against the Rockets. The Timberwolves are leading 64-61. Juan Hernan-Gomez has 16 points. Kelly Olynyk has been playing great since he got traded to the Rockets. Former Gonzaga Bulldog. He has 18.6 rebounds in this game. Has 7 minutes 45 seconds left in the third quarter. The Mavericks are blowing out the Warriors by a score of 53-26 right now with 2 minutes left in the second quarter. The Warriors cannot score. They had 12 points in the first quarter. Currently, with under 2 minutes left in the second quarter, they now have 15 points. I'm just going to click into this box score just to see the Warriors. Steph Curry is 3 for 8. But he is a minus 21. He has 10 points. Other than that, you got Draymond Green hasn't shot in 16 minutes. Andrew Wiggins is 2 for 7. Mike Mulder got the start over Kelly Oubre. Mulder's 1 for 4. Oubre off the bench is 0 for 6. He's relapsing to the start of the season when he couldn't make anything. Jordan Poole's 1 for 7. Yeah, that's a bad shooting night for the Golden State Warriors. They are 8 for 36, 22%. 3 for 17 from 3 for 18%. Very, very rough for Golden State.
Not good for Golden State.
As far as games that have gone final, the Thunder upset the Celtics behind Darius Bazley's 21 points, 10 rebounds, and 4 assists. The Thunder win by a score of 119-115. Jaylen Brown in the loss for the Celtics had 39 points to lead them. Peyton Pritchard, Oregon legend, had 28 points off the bench. The Celtics were without Jason Tatum today. I think that was the only notable player. They were also without Robert Williams and Kemba Walker. It wasn't the only notable player. So they were missing 3 starters. Still, should have won this game against the Oklahoma City Thunder. Poku had a solid game. Dort, 24 points. Ty Jerome, 15 off the bench. I'd say Roby, 15 off the bench. It's always fun to watch those teams just for the obscure NBA players that are actually getting a chance. You know what I mean, Eric?
Yeah, it's that's the only good thing about watching some of those teams is watching players that don't normally get a lot of time, seeing what they can do, like the Anthony Simons game against Sacramento a few years ago. Those are always fun to watch.
Yep. The Bucks beat the Hornets 114-104. Giannis has 29 points, 12 rebounds, 8 assists, 3 steals. Brook Lopez 22 points, Bryn Forbes 15 off the bench. For the Hornets, they had 25 from Devontae Graham, 21 from Miles Bridges. They're still waiting on LaMelo Ball to come back. They're still waiting on Gordon Hayward to come back. Right now they're sitting at 30 and 31 on the cusp of playoff position. They will likely be in the play-in game, I think. And then, final game, other than ours, the Nets beat the Raptors 116-103. KD has 17 points and 10 rebounds. Jeff Green had 22 in this one. Very balanced effort. Seven players in double figures for the Nets. For the Raptors, Rodney Hood played, I think, a second or something because it says he played 0 minutes. But it didn't say he was a DNP, so I guess Rodney Hood's out of the rotation. Gary Trent Jr. is injured. So the former Blazers, not really anything notable from this game for them.
Yep.
And that's the scores from today. As far as standings go, you got the Blazers a half game behind the Mavericks. I feel pretty comfortable saying that is going to be a game behind the Mavericks, considering how bad they're beating Golden State right now. Portland does have the tiebreaker with them. Memphis is a game and a half behind Portland. San Antonio's tied with Memphis right now, too, by the way. So Portland is a game and a half ahead of the 8th and 9th place teams. The Warriors are 2 games back of the Blazers, likely to be 2.5 games. The Warriors, of course, sitting in 10th. That is what the playoff picture looks like right now. I mean, Portland still, if Portland could rattle off some wins, they have an outside shot of getting the 5th seed. There are 3 games behind the Lakers, and they do have a game coming up against them. If they could win that game, then that would give them an outside chance. They would have to take care of business in that one, though, because that would give them the tiebreaker. So if they lose that game against the Lakers, absolutely no chance, no matter how well they do in the rest of their games. If they win that game because it decides the tiebreaker, small chance, not likely, but still an outside chance.
You know, it's more likely if the Blazers lose tomorrow night and the Spurs win, they are tied for the 7-8-9 with both the Spurs and the Grizzlies.
How are they? They're a game and a half ahead, the Grizzlies and the Spurs.
Or is it a game and a half? Oh.
Yeah, it's a game and a half. They'd be tied in the loss
I thought
column.
You said a game.
Yeah, a game and a half. Because Portland right now is sitting at 33 and 28. The Grizzlies and Spurs are sitting at 31 and 29. So they would be tied in the loss column. With how easy of a schedule Memphis has, that would be essentially tied. Memphis has a tiebreaker with us, too. I mean, that game against Memphis is huge. Probably the biggest game left this season. But Portland right now is stuck in play-in position, and I still think it's extremely likely that's where they're going to be at the end of the season. It's just going to be interesting to see if it's 7th or 8th. Not much difference there. Obviously, the drop-off is between 8th and 9th. Because if you're 9th, you have to win 2 games to get in the playoffs. If you're 7th or 8th, you have to win 1 out of 2 games to get into the playoffs. That's basically the way it shakes out at the end of the season.
Yep. So Adam Smith asked, any update on Zach Collins? Yeah, it came out that he is definitely out for the regular season. If they made it past the first round, there's a chance he could be back in the second round, but most likely will not see Zach this year.
Yeah, so basically he's out for this season because, I mean, I don't think we're getting to the second round. And honestly, even if he was able to come back, I feel like it's unlikely he'd get playing time given how long he's been out. So.
And another question from Adam, are you still down on Julius Randle? He's having a career year and shooting the 3, lives at the free throw line. How could he not improve us?
I mean, my opinion on Julius Randle before this season is a lot different than my opinion on Julius Randle right now. And that's the case for most people because he's maybe the most improved player in the entire NBA this year.
And he's been good defensively, too.
Yeah, that was the big knock on him.
Do you think those improvements would have happened if he got traded here in the offseason?
No.
And he played under Stotts versus having someone like Thibodeau come in and, teach that whole team, not just him, proper way to play defense? So.
What would be said right now, Eric, is how can you have anything but the 3rd worst defense in NBA history when you're playing Julius Randle 35 minutes a game?
Yep. Why do we trade for Julius Randle when we still have CJ and Dame? Because it probably wouldn't have taken.
And that's what we were saying before, because he was a bad defender, like a real bad defender before the season. So that's why I didn't really want him. Before the season, he was a bad 3-point shooter. He shot 27% from 3 last year. He was a bad defender. He wasn't efficient, you know what I mean? It was like, why would you go out and trade for a guy who doesn't play defense and can't shoot the 3? Okay, this year he's shooting 42% from 3, Eric, and he's playing good defense. His efficiency inside the arc has dropped off. Is only 48%, but still the dude is an all-star caliber player this year. He's averaging 24 points per game, 10 rebounds, 6 assists. So, that's the thing, is I don't want a forward that can't defend and can't shoot. It's a terrible fit, right? The thing is, he worked on his 3-point shot, and all of a sudden he has a head coach that knows how to coach defense. And now he's a 3-and-D guy when he was neither of those. So, yes, he would be a really good fit here now, given what he's done this season. But before this season, what he would have been a terrible fit here.
And people say, or we say, not people, we say Derek Jones, Aaron Gordon, those guys would have been horrible fits in Stott's system. And I feel the same way with Julius Randle. It just would have, he would have been put in the corner like Derek Jones. We run, what we do is run Dame pick and rolls. So why would he be involved in that except for like when Nurk was out maybe? But he's kind of undersized to play center, and then people would be like, oh, well, when we're playing him large minutes at the center, asking why we're playing an undersized forward there. Yeah, it's just I don't know. He's having a great year. I hope this is who he is, because you always like to see players that work on their game and develop. But it's kind of weird when a player of his caliber goes from being that highly rated, coming like through college, and is expected to be a big player in the draft, and then shows the first few years doesn't seem to have the maturity and the work ethic to become that player he has the potential to be. So maybe it's just a case of growing up, and maybe it's just a case of him having a really good shooting year that if those numbers start to dip in future years, he won't be quite as effective. But he's always had the skills to be kind of a playmaking big with he can handle the ball, he can pass, he can he gets block shots and stuff. Like he's been an okay defender, not good, but like he's shown flashes of being capable on that end. He just hasn't really seemed to put it all together. And that's what coaching, I think, can do for a team, is when you get someone who has a plan and has these guys locked into exactly what they need to improve on and what they need to do to help the team win. And when they're all on the same page, it looks like that a team where outside of Randall, there's not a ton of talent. I mean, I know they have a lot of young guys and draft picks that could potentially be, but that team's playing way above their talent level this season.
Yeah. Now, I've seen this a lot. CJ for Julius Randle trade this offseason. Why would the Knicks trade Julius Randle for CJ McCollum? That is my question. Why would they trade a guy who is their star right now, playing solid defense, and giving them 24 points per game, 6 assists, and 42% from three from the power forward position, right? Like, you could find 24 points per game and 6 assists from the point guard position, shooting 42% from three. You could find that at the point guard position a lot easier than you could at the power forward position. There's more of a premium on that at the power forward position. So, why would the Knicks even think or even talk to us about that possibility? They would say no so fast to a straight up swap, and like we'd have to throw on a lot on top of that, and I don't even know what we'd throw on that would make it worth it for them, because they do have a lot of young projects already, and it's not like Nurkic would be their starter of the future. They would get Mitchell Robinson back next year to be their starting center of the future, so I don't like that's not really an option this summer.
Yeah, and above that, let's say we traded for Randall last year and he was good, but obviously he wouldn't have made the All-Star game in the West on Portland. And then everything that people are saying about Olshey would still apply. Oh, he hasn't traded for an All-Star. He hasn't gotten us an All-Star, even though this guy had All-Star potential, or it could have been that way on a different team or with a different coach. So that's why I don't like using the All-Star example, because that guy was a legit All-Star this year, and he wouldn't have been probably on most other teams, especially in the West.
Yep. Agreed with that. So we're not going to watch any interviews today, but I do have a quote from Damian Lillard that was tweeted out by Jason Quigg. Jason Quigg tweeted out 22 minutes ago saying, Lillard said some really compelling stuff tonight after the win in Indy. He wanted to set the tone defensively, said Blazers have to be willing to be dirty, as in dirty work, loose balls, box outs, etc., and can't be ashamed to be desperate over the final 11 games. Need to see it against a good team, and Lillard was frank in admitting that, and we won't have to wait long to see. The Blazers play Memphis Wednesday, but this was the step that needed to be taken and the words that needed to be said, so good start. Now, will there be follow-through? And yeah, I mean, that's entirely what we've said on this postgame stream. Now, calling Memphis a good team, they're pretty mediocre, but I mean, against mediocre teams, we haven't been able to win games either, and we just lost.
They're good against us.
They're good. Yeah, they are good against us. I'll give them that. But yeah, they're currently. What did I say they were sitting at? 31-29. They're pretty 500 ball club, but they are healthier than they've ever been. It's just, do you see them last night against Denver? How much did they lose by? To a Denver team missing Jamal Murray and Will Barton?
24 or something like that,
yeah. Yeah. Oh. They are not that level of good.
Now we're lagging, I think.
Maybe. I don't think we are.
So here's my problem with those comments. We've heard the talk all year. Like, where was that? Why didn't you have that dirtiness or like grit coming out the gates this year? Why does it take you losing 5 in a row to when your season's on the line and you're in trouble now of possibly playing in the playing game versus getting a little bit of a rest that week? Like, why now? Like, what happened at the All-Star break when everyone was saying they needed to be better defensively? Like, why didn't you show that same determination then? And it's that's the most frustrating part to me. And then on top of that, again, we're putting the emphasis on the players have to be better, the effort has to be better, the dirtiness of their play they have to muck it up. It's not like, oh, it would help if we had a better system or if we pressured the point of attack so they didn't come downhill at us and we wouldn't be put in these bad positions. No, Stas is still going to put them in these horrible positions, and they just have to step up and play better and somehow stop these players from scoring that are elite scorers that have like a lob pass if they want, and if you take away the lob, they have an easy shot in the lane. It's none of that. It's just like, oh, we just gotta want it more. We just gotta be more aggressive on our own and stuff like that. But they can try as much as they want to do that. But if the schemes do not improve and their preparation for these teams like a Memphis who plays in transition isn't better heading into the games, like it will definitely help, but it won't help enough to make a difference when it really matters, and that's what we've been saying all year.
Yeah, I agree with that. So, honestly, not a whole lot to talk about on this one. Is there something we've missed so far this stream, Eric, that you want to touch on?
No, I think we've pretty much covered everything from a game like this.
Yep. Feels a little short for a post-game stream, but we will be right back at you guys tomorrow. There's a lot of jam-packed streams, so I think we're going to wrap this one up here. The Blazers end up taking care of business against the Pacers. They did what they were supposed to do against a mediocre team that was missing its top 3 players with TJ Ward, Miles Turner, and Domantas Sabonis. Maybe Brogdon Levert is better than Miles Turner, but they're missing some talent tonight. The lineup they threw out there was a very poor lineup. We've seen the Blazers take care of business against poor teams this year. What can they do against good teams? We're going to need to see progress against the good teams. Dame said it himself, so we're going to have to just wait and see, because we have some good teams coming up. We have a hard schedule. Tomorrow we have our third game in 4 against the Memphis Grizzlies, so it'll be interesting to see if they can take what they did tonight and turn it into some success against the Grizzlies, which they've lost to twice in a row. Hopefully it's not a third, because if it's a third, the Blazers are at an increased risk of having to win 2 games just to make the first round, which is just, that's blasphemy. That's crazy that we're saying that at this point in the season. So, yeah, we'll be along with you guys for this ride. We'll see what the Blazers can do tomorrow. Thank you for tuning in and making us a part of your Tuesday evening. These early games definitely not my favorite. We got a 6 p.m. tip-off time tomorrow, so we'll be live around 8:30 in the evening. That post-game stream will definitely be longer than this one. We'll be talking about a Memphis team that has given us fits instead of a poor Indiana team. So anyway, Eric, anything you want to end off with?
No, just thanks for everyone for watching. It's been a fun stream. Nice to talk about a win, and we'll see you all tomorrow.
Yep, see you guys tomorrow. Hope you have a good rest of your night. And until next time, as always, peace out. Go Blazers.